All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Jet. I've been attending Racial Christi on and off for about 2 years here, and I wanted to talk about this subject. I appreciate the opportunity. I am a convert from Hinduism to Christianity, and that was back in 2008, long time. But I'm from a Hindu family. Nobody else in my family is a believer. So this presentation is more like a primer. About Hinduism, and I'm sure Neel can add to it. It's not very technical for Racial Christi, like scholarly, but I think you'll get a lot of stuff out of it because a lot of people don't. If you witness it in Hindus, you have to kind of understand, and it's a very big topic. I'm not going to cover everything, but here are the basics. Hinduism is dubbed as the world's oldest religion. In fact, many people call it Santana Dharma. They don't even know when it started. Apparently in the Indus Valley, which is close to where India is now, present-day India. And it's rumored to have millions of gods. What I mean polytheistic in practice is that, there's, many gods from different parts of the country, South India, North India, God for this, God for that. But monotheistic philosophy, it means kind of like most Hindus will tell you, well, it's a form of God. Like we believe there's a God, but then there are like gods under gods, deities and all that. So it's kind of broken down into sort of a hierarchy. There's no specific founder. We don't know where it founded. Like, you could say Jesus founded Christianity. There's no prophets, and I like to say this. It's a non-profit organization, 501c3b. And encompasses multiple worldviews. You'll find Hindus that, call themselves openly polytheistic, monotheistic, pantheistic. God is part of the creation. Atheist, agnostic. Really, Hinduism is like a way of life. It's a bunch of beliefs, bunch of traditions, bunch of philosophies, and many people can call themselves Hindu. Anybody can call themselves a Hindu. You could be like a believer in Christ and be Hindu, or Buddhist and be Hindu, again, because it's more of like a combination of these things, beliefs, philosophies, etc., and a way of living mainly.
How can it be both polytheistic and atheistic at the same time?
That's what I'm saying. Hinduism, black box. People say, well, okay, I'm a Hindu because I believe in these. I'm talking about the basic beliefs of Hinduism. Mm-hmm. But I believe in many gods, and there'll be some Hindus who will say, I don't really believe in a particular god, but I live this way, so I'm a Hindu. So it's not more like, it's dubbed as a religion, I guess, but it's more of a way of life. Okay. Go figure. So there are a couple of core beliefs. This might kind of tie in things for what you're saying. That's a good question. Dharma is a very important tenet in Hinduism, and it basically says that this is the way you act. It's the right behavior. This is your role in society, and they believe that for society to function properly, you have to, practice dharma. And so, if you're born into this trade or in this type of family, you continue that. That's your duty to kind of serve that way. It also encompasses, a certain moral behavior, like don't kill, don't harm people, do good to others. It's really the reality of way that society should function. Is that everybody, in other words, if everybody followed their dharma, everything would be good. There'd be all these problems. Karma, you guys have heard of this, is cause and effect. Kind of like Newton's law for cosmic stuff. Something you do, something happens. If you harm somebody, they'll come back to you. If you do good to somebody, it'll come back to you. Primarily, people think of it as in the next life, like, I'm a human being now, and I do a lot of bad things, and I may end up being a rat or a cockroach or something. You go through the cycle of different creatures. But there's also some Hindus that believe that the cause and effect is affecting in this life as well. Moksha is really the goal of life. And I'll talk about Brahman, what that means, but moksha basically means to merge with Brahman, the eternal force, and it is breaking the reincarnation cycle. It is kind of like the heaven. You're not get back to the earth to experience karma and practice dharma anymore. You're kind of out of the whole thing. And we'll talk more about it. And then most Hindus believe in the Vedas, which are the holy scriptures for them, books, and also they believe in the yogs, which is like epics or time things. So we're in, and I'll talk about this, Silver Age or the Bronze Age, and the whole of history is broken into these epics or these time intervals, and they believe in that. I can't say every single Hindu, but these are like the core beliefs. So like we talked about dharma. Dharma is doing your duty, responsible behavior. It's responsible for balance in the universe, to say. But I think basically proper functioning of society, what it means. And each creature has its own duty based on. We'll talk about the caste system as well. How different people are born into different families and have different roles, and they're expected to carry out those roles without transgressing. And many Hindus believe that, I can maybe in the Bible, like when God intervened in the Old Testament or did something when evil reigned, the flood and all that. Well, in this case, when evil reigns and when people are not practicing dharma and they're not, taking care of each other and doing what they need to do but overstepping bounds, then a god will come in, avatar, a form of God will come in. Krishna, Rama, we'll talk about this, they'll descend into earth, and at that time, that period, they will speak wisdom and help people get back into morality and godliness. The Vedas are their holy scripture. Now, let me be clear one thing. Hinduism doesn't actually have one central text. The Bible is the central text for Christianity and Quran for Islam. Hinduism is a collection of texts, and they all add some value, but the Vedas is what a lot of the understanding of the gods came from, a lot of the traditions. And there are 4 different Vedas. The Rig one is hymns, and they have different types of topics. You can read over there what I've written on truth and just big, overwhelming type of topics that are important for human life. Yajur Veda is more like sacrificial and rites and rituals, kind of like for lack of a better word, like the Leviticus of Hinduism. And Sama is worship songs, and Arthava is a book that talks about curses, enemies, charming people, and all different types of scripture like that. So these are, they have wisdom, they have poetry. They're just like guidance, and they're very ancient texts written in Sanskrit language. There are some other texts that you may run into when you talk to Hindus. Upanishads, they're about philosophy. They address life's difficult questions. Could be kind of like the Proverbs of Hinduism, or the Ecclesiastes. And the theme is about the fact that you're an Atman, you're a soul, and you're not your body, and this is how you have to think about life. Puranas cover many Hindu beliefs. There's 18 total on different topics. The Bhagavad Gita, a lot of you have heard of that. It's also called the Gita. It's a story about a warrior Arjuna who refuses to go and practice his dharma. He's a warrior class, and he needs to go fight the enemies. And so Krishna, which is an avatar of Vishnu, we'll talk about that, one of the 3 main sub-deities, he comes to earth and guides Arjuna on what to do. The Ramayana is an epic tale, and it's about another avatar of Vishnu, Rama, and he gets banished. Basically, he's told by a family member that you need to go, you've disobeyed, you need to go out into the woods. He goes for 14 years. His wife gets kidnapped by the devil, Ravana, what they call, and then he's rescued by the monkey god, Hanuman. So, and then Mahabharata is an epic. It's actually the longest poem ever created. It's longer, much longer than the Bible, the Greek poems, the Greek epics, and it's about a fight between these cousin families, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. So again, I just want to go over this. You may hear this when you talk to Hindus. You may encounter this. What is this about? I'm just kind of educating you the background. Brahman is considered, not Brahma, it's different, that's a god, but Brahman. Brahman is the universal force, formless energy. Hindus consider it the universe and all the material comprising of the universe. It's all reality. There's nothing beyond Brahman. It's self-sustaining. And many people describe it as the ocean of all energy, of all life, of all reality. And our individual soul, which is called Atman, is a drop from that Brahmanic ocean. That is, it's just so many Hindus will tell you, it's like, one of the goals is towards moksha is to realize who you are. You're Atman, your soul. You're not the body. The body's like a costume, clothing that you, from one life, you wear this clothing, and then you take it off, and the next life you wear that clothing. And if you realize that you're from Brahman, and you have an Atman from there, and that's a purity, then you're gaining towards moksha, which is the ultimate the release from birth and death cycle. So it's a water drop from that pure ocean of Brahman. And actually, Brahman is again like this force, but in terms of execution, in terms of interaction with mankind, there are three main gods. It's called the Hindu Trinity. Brahma, which is the creator, Vishnu, the sustainer, and Shiva, the destroyer, and there's a bunch of other deities under them and different forms of them. So let's talk about Brahma. It's very interesting. He's got 4 heads, and they represent the 4 Vedas and the 4 ages that I was talking about, which I'll talk about in a future slide. He rides a swan. So you'll find out a lot of these Hindu gods, they have their own transport mechanisms, sort of like their Tesla. They have different ones, and they're animals. And then they also, I didn't know this before studying this, but parts of his body represent the caste system. So like the top of the caste system is the Brahmins. They're considered like the most revered, the most respected, they're like the high intellectuals, the priests, and then the shoulders come to the Kshatriyas, which are the warriors, and then his thighs form the Vaishyas, the merchants, the farmers, and then the feet area is the laborers or servants called the Shudras. And so for Hindu mythology and philosophy, that's where the caste system came from. But interesting, I was studying this, and the thought from the Vedas is that this was just to kind of define the roles, and you could potentially, if your skill sets were such, you could kind of move between that. And then there was this book in I can't remember when it was, 5th century. Sorry?
Manusmriti.
Huh?
Letters of Manu.
Manu, that's what I was going to say, yeah. The Manu that kind of made it all strict, and kind of made it into a social constraint that you can't move between. Once you're born into it, you are in that caste system. Finally, there's the untouchables that are not worthy of their own class. And these are people that could do jobs such as, tan leather or cut meat, or clean bathrooms, what they consider impurity, and nobody wants to associate with the untouchables, Okay, I wanted to say that consorts or companions with these different gods, Brahma is associated with Saraswati, which is the god of learning. So in India, you see a lot of times before people go for exams, they pray to Saraswati. This is a picture of Brahma, this is the picture of Saraswati, female god. So gods and goddesses. And then Vishnu, being the preserver, he's got a discus. They believe that, once Brahma creates, Vishnu preserves until Shiva destroys. And so when evil comes and he needs to use it, that's his discus, that's his conch, that represents the 5 elements, air, water, earth, ether, all that. His avatars are Krishna and Rama. We talked a little bit earlier on the slide about stories written about them. And they're coming to earth again when evil is overwhelming to defend Dharma. And I didn't know this either, but I guess he rides an eagle named Garuda. And he's associated with Lakshmi, which is the goddess of wealth. You see all this money dripping down there? and then Bhudevi, which is the earth goddess. And actually, this festival that's coming up later this month of Diwali or Deepavali, people do prayer to, I know my mom, wife, they always like dress up nice and make sure that the house is clean and everything, and they do the prayer to Lakshmi. And we have like coins and stuff, and we dip it in milk, and we pray, and we give money to the kids. And that's the goddess of wealth. That's puja, or the ritual for Lakshmi. Shiva is the destroyer, and if you notice here, the thing in the middle, the third eye, well, it's said to be that the third eye is closed. But when it's the end of all ages, the last age, then Shiva will open up his eyes and there'll be destruction. And everything will start over again. All of creation will be destroyed. And he keeps it closed right now. And that would happen in Kali Yuga, the last age. And he does this, I don't have a picture of it, but he does this dance called Natraja. And if you see pictures of Shiva, he's like this. And I'll see if I can get one of them. But anyways, that represents the end of the age, and when he does that dance, destruction starts happening. And then, they also think that he is housed in Himalayas. Maybe it's like a myth or whatever, but that's a mountain behind him. And then there is this water that's coming out. The Ganges River, the holy Ganges River, flows from his head. That's why people want to bathe in the Ganges River, holy. And his consorts are Parvati, which is this right here, representing love and fertility. And they actually had a first wife, and there was a story behind it called Sati, and the long short of it is that she jumped in the fire and killed herself, and then it was reincarnated to Parvati. So there's a bunch of stories behind these things. Ganesha is the remove obstacles. Ganesha is a very important god. You'll see the elephant god a lot of times in India in the shops. When people work, before they go to work, they will pray to Ganesha to give them luck, or students, if they're wanting luck on a test. And then Murugan is his brother, and that's the warrior god. So Hindus believe in certain things, dharma, to do your duty. They do believe in prosperity, live a good life, enjoy life. Kama is pleasure. I think many of you have heard of Kama Sutra. Kama in general just means pleasure in body and mind, and moksha is merging with Brahman, the divine. And the idea is that you should enjoy life, artha, you should have some pleasure in life, kama, but you shouldn't overdo it. You should mix it in with dharma. And when there's an imbalance, then that's when all these vices happen. Kama, excessive kama, like lust, krodha, anger, lotha, greed, moha, excessive power, title, mada, pride, and matasara, jealousy. So to achieve moksha, you should practice your dharma, and you can have some artha and kama, but you don't overdo it. And a lot of times these philosophies, wisdom, all that, you've heard of gurus, they're basically teachers. But one thing I said many don't understand, you talk to Hindus, and Hindus understand certain things about what they believe, but they don't understand everything. If you question them a lot, if you go like logically, sometimes they say, I don't know, I was told to do this. My parents did this, or my guru said to do this. Sometimes I go to pujas and I say, well, why are we doing what? Because I have an inquisitive mind. And they're like, well, just have to follow the priest, So again, it's more of kind of tradition and what they're used to. Not everybody. There are some very scholarly Hindus, but I'm just saying in general population. I'm almost done here. There are some denominations. Vaishnavas worship primarily Vishnu, Shavas, Shiva and his sons, Ganesha, and Murugan, Smartas. They follow the Puranas that we talked about before, and they have their own set of gods. The Shaktis, goddess Devi, the earth god. Sikhs, Guru Nanak, the people who wear turbans, that's a sect of Hinduism. But they worship a guru. You don't see them really idols. They just have a book, and they have a little feather that when you go into the Gurdwara, their temple, they do this, and so they have, like I said, Hinduism is a potpourri. You can go on and on. Jains, they're also a sect of Hinduism. A lot of them don't eat garlics or anything that grows in the ground. And Swaminarayans, there's a big temple here in Morrisville, and they they follow Swami. I think Prabhupada is the latest guru, but Prabhupada Swami. But this is the guy who started it, and it's just based on another god, Pushatan, so Hindu god. So a lot of variety in different denominations or sects of Hinduism. And finally, like traditions, you may run into this. Holi is the color festival that happens in spring, and it was based on a Hindu story between Holika and Prahlada. I don't think we have time to go into this, but just kind of give recognition. Navratri is the 9 days of honoring goddess Durga. And she sits on a tiger, and she's got these like spears or knives, and she's out there to battle good and evil. And so what they do is they do the Garba dance, and then they do the dandiya with the sticks. So that's for 9 days prior to Diwali. And then Diwali is, I told you about Krishna. He was sent into exile. After 14 years, he came back, and his wife was rescued by Hanuman from Ravan, the devil, and they celebrate this as the Festival of Lights, the Diwali. And it's more formal, with people dressing up nice and doing that Lakshmi Puja and giving mithai, which is those sweets, Indian sweets called mithai. Pujas are just basically prayer ceremonies. They're very rituals. Sometimes they do something like Havan Puja, which is in the new year. They put things to fire, everything burn up from the old into the new year. And then the Lakshmi Puja. And there's also certain, behaviors. Like sometimes Hindus buy a new house, they'll put a lemon under a car and drive over it, or they will do Sat fairies during marriage, where the husband and wife take 7 vows, and each of the vows means something. I don't have time to go into it, and then that's rooted in Hinduism as well. And then also pilgrimages to temples, shoes off. They take it to the temple. They don't want to put their shoes there where there's gods or idols and stuff, and then touching the feet of elders. So, okay, so witnessing. Oh, I thought I had one on the ages. Maybe I don't. Well, I can talk to you about that afterwards if you have questions. Witnessing to Hindus. Okay, since they believe in karma, what you do something and now you're suffering, it's because of your karma. My advice would be that, a lot of times Christians, and I understand to accept a Savior or to believe in a Savior, you have to be convicted of your sin and things like that. But I would not go on and talk to a Hindu about, do you know if you said one lie in your life and, that means that's enough sin for a holy God. Because they believe that suffering or what they do is based on karma. So I'm not saying talking about sin later on when they come towards Christ is a bad idea, but you wouldn't approach a Hindu like that. I would want to learn a little bit more about their gods and kind of know what their position is and what their thought is about God. Like I would ask Hindus, like, okay, Ganesha or Shiva and all that, this is what you believe in, and you really revere them, and you sing songs to them and all that. But how personally do you know them? Do you have a personal relationship with them? And a lot of times it'd be like, oh, well, that's God, and we can't really know God, and until we get to, closer to God, only the gurus or rishis, can to know God that closely and all that. So that's where you can have opportunity to say, well, Jesus allows you an opportunity to know Him personally. You can know God personally, the God who created the universe. You can know Him. So I would also tell them that, if you start believing in Jesus, you don't have to leave your culture. Because culture, as you can tell, and all the habits, foods, and everything are very integrated with what their beliefs are. So many Indian churches I've attended in the Triangle, always Indian food, Indian dress, everything, speaking in their languages, Bibles translated in their languages, and then really focus on the person of Christ. For some reason, because of maybe the Bible thumpers, whatever, a lot of people, I'm not saying all Hindus, but a lot of Hindus may have a bad opinion of Christians, being very forceful and stuff like that. And so, not to say that don't mention Christianity, but focus on Christ, the person, so you don't have to deal with all that stuff in the past. And focus on their pain points. These are just basic evangelism tips for anything. Sometimes they'd be like, I just don't have the peace. I did pray to my God. I did this. I just don't have what I'm looking for. Then you can jump in and talk about your experience with Christ. And finally, pray with them. Everybody wants to pray. Our Hindus is saying, can I pray for you? And, and they may not want to talk much about the Bible. They may not want to reveal much about themselves. You may not even have an entry point towards inserting biblical truth. But if you pray for them, they appreciate it. And at some point, that, like you say, you don't tell people you're Christian, you show them you're Christian by your life. And I think that's where this hits home. So if you pray with them, and they come to Christmas outings. I know at NC State on Fridays, the Bridges Church, Bridges organization, a group of churches, Indians come, Hindu students come to eat lunch, and a lot of times people befriend them, and then invite them to Thanksgiving, or give them a ride to the grocery store or something like that. But Thanksgiving, Christmas, any occasion, Hindus will still celebrate it, for the cultural aspect of it. So you have opportunities to engage with them that way, prayer and with those things. So a couple of photo references, but I think that's it. I don't want to get into Neel's time.
Okay, so Jit already talked about a few things. He talked about what the major Hindu beliefs are, and what the traditions are, what people believe, why they believe what they believe, and so on. I'm gonna touch a little bit on those topics, and I'm also going to touch on a few more topics. That's very vague, but I'll get it done. So let's start with a few important points, and get this done as fast as possible. So what is Hinduism? It's idols, caste system, Indians. Okay, thank you for the presentation. So I'm kidding. that's not what it is. Okay, so I'm basically just gonna go over the main beliefs that Jit went over, but I'll do it fast so you don't have to get bored. So you have the universal soul called Brahman, which is God and the universe at the same time. So the universe is Brahman, and you guys are also technically Brahman, but not Brahman at the same time. I don't know how that works, but so there is then the immortal individual soul. Your soul is basically immortal. Your soul didn't even have a beginning, so you are just there, and you will be there. So, and belief on karma is self-explanatory kind of, which is do things happen to you. Belief in moksha is basically you have to get back to Brahman, and you're not currently in Brahman. So and how you want to get to that point is it's a branch of anyways, it depends on you. Do something, get there. And then there is the Vedas, which are I think just talked about this 4 Vedas. He talked about this, so I'm not going to explain more. Then there is cyclical time. Time basically has no beginning or an end. So there are 4 ages, and if you add them together, it's 4.32 million years. And then you have dharma, which is basically proper behavior. You should follow your dharma and do good things, and the animals should also follow their dharma. So basically you should have a dharma which is you're doing something which is you're supposed to do that, compared to an animal who's supposed to do what they do. For example, a lion's dharma would be to kill and eat. Yours would be to I don't know, talk and sleep, whatever. So that's the depends on what the being is. The dharma kind of changes, but all of them have a unique dharma, and all of them go together, gel together, dynamic things happen, and everything is sustainable through that. So now I'm gonna move to just basically conversing. If you guys want to converse with Hindus, a few tips, tricks, or whatever. So I want us Christians who are Christians here to keep this in mind. There's a reason we are doing these things. It's not selfish or for selfish ambition or something. It's because of this. It's because it's commanded to us. That's why we do these things, and we should do this from a perspective of loving your neighbor, and us following God. Basically that should be the premise of us doing these things. So having said all of that, we now move on to the second thing. That is the discussion. If you were talking with Hindus about the gospel, what kind of issues do you think you might face while doing so? Take 2 minutes and discuss these things with your neighbors. I now want to move on to some things that I thought might come up, basically some points with Hindus. So some of the things I would say is that Hindus do typically attribute Jesus as one of the many gods, or a messenger of God who shares good morals to people, meaning that he is typically revered. He's not necessarily condemned. So people normally, very generally, if you talk to them about Jesus, they would not be very antagonistic. They would not be hey, don't talk to me about him. I don't care about him, or whatever. They probably do a little bit. So I think like at least that door is open. So it's not as if like it's a very big step, at least for that step. So that's like one thing. Again, like similar to the first point, like some claim Jesus to be literally a part of Hinduism, meaning that Jesus was like a spiritual being who was part of Hinduism, as the other spiritual beings are in Hinduism, meaning that that's what basically is like that's the spectrum of where Jesus falls in, and like they would consider him to be like a great spiritual being in Hinduism. Jesus is basically Hindu, basically is the point. Then there is other things like his teachings are revered definitely. Like so, if you talk about like loving your neighbors, loving your enemies, and all those things, people will normally revere it. There's one Mahatma Gandhi quote which like I kind of like myself, which is like I like your Christ, I do not like your Christians. Your Christians are so unlike your Christ. I think he's right, but at the same time, like this is a deterrent for them. Like they would say that, hey, why you as a Christian are like doing these like I don't know bad things, or why have Christians done these bad things? I don't like this. Like, and I would agree with them. I don't like that either. But that's not the point. Like, the point is not for you to like I don't know become like a conformed part like of us who like exactly are like us or something. I mean I don't care. Like the whole point is like Christ. I mean the point is not particularly Christians. So I think but that is something that might come up. Like people again I think Jit mentioned this, which is like because of something like I don't know Bible thumpers or like something else, like people generally dealing with these things in a not good manner. Some people are generally like at least like let's say scared, for a lack of better words, to talk to Christians because they feel like I mean they'll get into something bad, which is a deterrent for them. Another point would be like this, just to keep in mind, some people might actually be antagonistic to Christians. Like not all Hindus are particularly like for Christ. Some people are actually against. But so keep that in mind. Don't like go like blatantly assuming these other things. It's fine to assume, but like at least keep that in mind. So I'll just go over a few stories about some people related to the topic we're talking about. Basically like former Hindus who like came to Christ. So like so I have like a link listed in the bottom of the page as well, and I'll share the slides so you can look into the story. I think it's a nice story. I went through the book that this guy wrote, or like the book about him at the very least. So like this guy Chakravarti, he's born in like a Brahmin family, and if you guys remember, the Brahmin is like the top tier. So the Brahmin is like the head of like made from the head of God. So they're like the top intellectuals and priests and stuff. So he was born in a Brahmin family. And he had like he went through all the religious customs and traditions and whatnot. He tried finding God in temples and sacred places. He went to sacred places, tried to find God. Everywhere he went, he could not find the living God. Now, failing to find what he was searching for, he went to Vrindavan, which is basically one of the most holy places in Hinduism. And he became basically an enemy of Jesus and Christianity. Like, so in his book, like he has a lot of like obviously a lot more going on there, and it's very interesting. Like he talks with Christians here and there randomly, and some of the conversations are like very like weird from like both ends. Like nothing really gets through, and he really doesn't get the picture like at all, even after the conversations he has with these Christians. Anyways, so like these things happen to him. He now ends up in Vrindavan. He eventually finds Jesus there in Vrindavan. And he then endeavors to share his message, share the message of Jesus to people in Vrindavan. Like he didn't even leave the place. He just left and came back. And anyways, whatever. He was rejected by his family. He was rejected by society. I don't know, lots of bad things happen, like extremely bad things. But like eventually, like those things end up showing people Jesus as love. And like one of like a very, very nice like parts of the story is that like bad things happen. People do bad things to him. And then he doesn't respond with like anger at all. He basically just says that I still love you guys. And after these things happen and people find out about these things, these people are now perplexed. They don't know what's happening. Now they're like, hey man, like what is this? Why are you Christian? Like you were born in this like Brahmin family, you were born in this thing, you went through all of these traditions and customs, you are discipled by these sages or whatever. Why are you Christian? And he gave them an answer. So like nice, very nice part. There are some funny parts as well. The guy basically like initially when he was not a Christian and he was a Hindu and he was trying to like talk to Christians or whatever, like there's this one guy who is a Christian, Indian Christian, like again, like as Jit said, Indian Christians don't really like wear suits and pants and like I don't know whatever. They're like very traditional, like very Indian culturistic and whatever. So like this guy gets invited by this Christian guy to his like home to have like dinner or have a meal together, and before he goes in, he's like very scared because he doesn't know what he's going to expect, because this guy is Christian and he doesn't know what to expect, and he's like, oh man, I'll open the door and I'll see random beef bones on the floor, I'll see like suits and pants, cigars and like whatever. And it's the absurd levels of like stereotypes that this guy has, and then when he goes inside, he's like, this guy is wearing the same thing like as I am, and it's like literally the same person. I don't know what is happening here, but it's a good story, and like that is one story that I wanted to share. The other story I wanted to share is about me, like very short. So basically, I myself was born in a Hindu family. I have been atheist agnostic for most of my life, and like I basically thought that all religions are the same thing. I came to a point where I started questioning these things. I started questioning like who God is, about existence, about all very many different things. I was practicing Hinduism at this point, and I was like going through traditions, rituals, and whatnot. And basically, eventually, I found out the truth about who God is and who Jesus truly is and what He did for me, and I placed my faith in Him. So I am Christian now, and like I am Christian because of what Jesus has done for me. That's my story. It's just like that's just what it is. One last slide that I wanted to share with you guys is that Jesus is beyond language, nations, and cultures. It's not about like a certain like tradition or a certain culture that you follow. Well, cultures and traditions are nice, but it's not about them. So I'm just gonna share what Jesus said in like a few languages that I partly know. So in English, Jesus says that I'm the way, the truth, and the life. In Hindi, he says, मैं मार्ग हूँ, सत्य हूँ और जीवन हूँ. In Bengali, he says, আমি পথ, সত্য এবং জীবন. In Sanskrit, he would say, aham marg asmi, satyam asmi, jivanam asmi. That's it for like the presentation, and thank you guys for like listening.